All right. Does this work? We got audio now. This doesn't feel like the right thing, though. Let me do something real quick. But what we're going to do, we're going to look at some tape. We're going to look at some film. We're going to talk about the position in death. So let me double check, make sure everything is working correctly because we're getting issues. Yep. Getting echo. I sound like I'm underwater in this show from underwater. Have you ever considered that? But seriously, yeah, I'm for whatever reason my microphone input is not showing up on here. I thought it was, but it's not, which is strange. Um, I'm gonna work on a fix on that. So we're gonna work on a fix on the audio as we go. But the goal of today's show is to talk about two quarterbacks in a rather in-depth way. So I want to talk about Cam Ward. I want to talk about Will Howard today. For Will Howard, what we're going to do is we're going to look at tape of Will Howard in this year's draft. We're going to watch about half of the Notre Dame game. And with Cam Ward, what we're going to do is we're going to have Jacob Roach on to try to convince me that Cam Ward is better than I think he is. So let's get the tape on, and then I'm going to try to get a cord here so I can fix my audio, and then we'll get going. Sorry about the inconvenience, but we got this tape up, and let's rock. It's Trey. Whew. Sorry about this. It's going to be a little awkward at the beginning. I'm trying to get the audio to work right, and I'm trying to do the show at the same time. There's a stack. This is a run play. One thing, I don't know. Ohio State fans in chat, y'all let me know. Who do y'all think is the better three-down back, Travion or Will Howard? Whew. All right. Sorry about that. We're dealing with some technical difficulties. I'm trying to fix the audio right now. I'm not having a ton of luck, I'm gonna be honest with you. For whatever reason, the audio is just completely crapping out on me. We might just have to deal with having bad audio if I can't get anything fixed, because I do want to get a show to you guys. Let's see here. Yeah, I can't believe my equipment just decides to just not work today. Like, this is ridiculous. And I think I'm gonna stop using whatever brand this is. Is my mic? Well, this isn't the mic. That it's not working still. Yeah, this is. Apologize my frustration. It's just hot garbage from Rode right here. Like, the Streamer X, don't buy it. It's a terrible product. It's not reliable. Just go get a capture card from Elgato and go get a regular sound thing from like Zoom Audio. Don't get Rode stuff, because Rode stuff is garbage. Straight garbage. I know you guys hear me. I'm just frustrated with this. This is the second time this has happened to me with this brand, and I'm over it. So, don't go out and spend $400 on one of these things. Trash. Absolute garbage. That being said, let's talk about the quarterbacks in this draft class. Let's look at some film. Let's try to break some stuff down. And let's not let perfect be the enemy of good here as we try to figure out whatever the heck is going on with our audio systems today. All right, so let's look at the film. See, is that Ibuka? What I like about Emeka Ibuka is that he is an explosive athlete, right? Like, probably the most explosive athlete in this draft class at wide receiver, or one of them. Ohio State really used their players' strengths well, especially in this game. This is Henderson. So when I've been watching Ohio State tape, the player that I've been most surprised with, or the players that I've been most surprised with, are twofold. 74 and number 1, right? Those are the two players that when I see them, I think that they're playing much better football than people give them credit for. 74 here, been playing really good at left tackle. So another set, look how he handles the hands here on the left side of your screen. See how he just catches this, right? Catches that punch and then follows him, and then he doesn't fall for the spin either. Judkins, there'll be time to talk about him, but what I like about Judkins, you can kind of see a little bit here. I think he has the best vision and the best sense of the two running backs at Ohio State for how to get into that open field, right? He gets his foot in the dirt here. He reads the block. He sees that the DB is taking it towards the sideline, so he can't just cut through there where his blocks tell him to go. So he reads that and says, okay, I'm going to leverage that by cutting around it and then see if I can break that arm tackle, and he does. Once he breaks that arm tackle, it's 5 extra free yards. It's pure off vision. It's pretty good there. All right, let's continue. Let's see what happened there. It looks like a busted play. So what are they in? They got one tight end in, rotate over. It's a little end around. Tight end just gets beat. All right. This is a pass situation. We see Notre Dame. They just bopped out into that quarter shell. Little run, play action. Howard rolling on his right side. Nothing's really open here except for maybe that tight end. Let's see what Howard does here. Makes a really nice throw. So one thing I like about watching Will, he throws with anticipation, right? Because if you watch here, nobody's obviously open. But he knows he has this man coming towards the 20. He throws this ball in a spot, and he hits that spot well. And boom, completion. This is the stuff I really like. I think Will Howard's probably – I'm higher on Will Howard than I thought I would be honest with you. Because again, this is not obviously open. He's just trying to see where the depth is of Kaiser. And then he throws a nice anticipation ball. Look where that ball's going. Look where Book is at. It's thrown to a spot right there. That's NFL level stuff. Now, do I like Will Howard in the first or second round? No. But third round, fourth round, for sure. Especially we're talking late third, early fourth. All right, another one here where Will gets to show off his legs. And Will's not very fast. He's probably going to run like 4.7, depending on how big he actually is. 4.7, maybe high 4.6. But what he is as a runner is kind of like Jacoby Brissett. Good vision and good understanding, right? He knows how to slip in. So right here, he sees the blocks, again, leverages it. Boom, creates a little hole there for himself to run through, and then just slides. The vision and decisiveness is what I like the most out of Will Howard. He doesn't really spend too much time figuring out what he needs to do. Like, I think Will Howard can run an offense. Let's see, yeah, Junkins back there. It looks like a run. Junkins, man, that vision and cut ability is crazy. Let's see this on the end zone side. All right, so this is why when I watch Ohio State, and I've watched like 6 games on tape, I come out thinking, man, I think I want Junkins more than I want Henderson. Because Henderson, like, unbelievable guy in the open field, but I want a running back who give me 5 yards on first down. I feel like this is the guy who could do that. Look how he handles this, right? Like, navigates a tight space. 44 absolutely, like, wallops that tight end there. So this play, I mean, well, actually, tight end does a good job getting something back. And then good run there, getting north for Junkins. I like him a lot. Let's let this play roll and we'll talk about it. All right, let's see Will here. Just, nice little screen. Getting out to the side. Touchdown there. Pretty basic stuff, right? Again, you expect him to be able to run your offense, right? That's what he brings to the table. All right. So this here from Will, pretty solid throw. So let's go back here. Gets it on the numbers. Now, the one issue with Will is arm strength, right? And the problem with Will isn't that he can't get it upfield. I think when we hear arm strength, we worry about can he get it upfield. That's not the issue. The issue is can Will work from one hash to the opposite numbers? That's where he has his worst problems. But if you get him in a condensed part of the field, you get him working 1/3 of the field, half field reads, he's going to be pretty good for you, and his arm strength's not going to be a problem. This is a play action concept. We've seen the Browns have plenty of this play action concepts before, right? They use this a lot. This is not something new to Cleveland. They're going to go back to this. This is a big part of their offense. Little play action hitch, and then you have the 2 overs, right? And then one of those overs goes north. This is the Carnell tape, and he's on that hash. Now, the issue in the NFL is that he's going to be a couple feet over. But I don't think that's going to be a problem for him on this side of the ball. It's more about him hitting that opposite side, right? But if he's on the side of wherever he's throwing, right? If he's on that hash, he could do something with it, right? Because look at that layer. He just layers that over the linebacker right into the hands of his wide receiver. That's good stuff there, right? You do have overall concerns about arm strength, but it's good stuff there, right? Foot, look at the feet here. Nice, clean feet. You see how he's not wasting a lot of feet? I mean, a lot of feet, a lot of steps. That's good. That's what you like to see. All right. Check. Mic check. Oh, we got it working finally. All right. This piece of crap finally works. Hallelujah. Good audio. Mike, chat. Can we get a thumbs up if the audio sounds normal again? Goodness gracious. Yeah, let me get a double check to make sure, because on my end, it seems like it's going through. Sorry about the technical difficulties at the beginning of this show. All right, we're good. Awesome. Love to see it. All right, Will in shotgun. You get press. Well, it looks like press man at the top here. It's probably depending on the down and distance, looks like a run. Yeah, handoff, play action. It's kind of a little bit of a run action because the line moves with them. So they're not pass blocking, they're run blocking. So they're doing a hard run action. Pull out, get him moving, and then just throw to the out, right? Now, this is something they do for 2 reasons. And if you're in the NFL, you use Will Howard, you're probably going to have to do stuff like this too. Because what you don't want is Will sitting on the hash and throwing to the field side. He doesn't have that kind of arm strength. But you can get creative with it, right? Use some run action, get him on the move so you don't have to worry about it. Even then, like, he doesn't get that straight to the body like you would want. Like, the arm strength stuff is the stuff you have to work on with Will. But if you can work around that with him, I think you'll be in a decent place. All right. Will and empty. Sets up. Rolls out. Let's see. Did he miss anything? I think he could have probably hit Jeremiah Smith here.
he just didn't trust it. It's third down. He sees his man coverage. He just decides to run. I mean, this is a fine decision too. And look, good burst there by him to get the extra yardage after he gets the first. Arm strength out of 10, I would say it's probably a 6. I wouldn't go as high as 7 because 7 is average. He's definitely below average. If we're going NFL, he's sitting at like 6. It depends. Like, I got to see what his hand size measurements are. If he has like a normal hand size, if he has like a normal miles per hour, he's probably sitting at a 6 arm strength wise. Yeah, because he's definitely below average with the arm. Like, there's no doubt about it in my mind. The question is, like, can you work around that enough to potentially get this guy to be a starter? Right. That's what you have to look at with Will. You know what his strengths are. Like, even a ball like this, right? And it's not super noticeable, but he's going from the hash to the numbers. And you see how Ibuka has to adjust inward to get to that ball because it just doesn't quite reach him. That's a small example of it, but there's tons of examples of this where you could tell his arm strength is something that the wide receivers have to adjust for, which, again, there have been quarterbacks in the league who have had not ideal arm strength or below average arm strength and have been able to figure it out by compensating with accuracy and things like that. The question is Will Howard going to be able to do those things that you need to do? Because the arm strength stuff, it's real. All right. Let's continue. Out of pistol. Is this a run? Yep. Juckets. He gets stuffed up there. Was there anything? Let's see. See from the end zone angle. Let's watch Donovan here. See what happens with him on the left side. So Donovan clears. I wonder if he was supposed to climb to that second level. Yeah. I think Donovan was supposed to get up there. Either Donovan was supposed to get up there or they were really banking on that linebacker going with the. Yeah, I think somebody was supposed to take care of that. All right, let's see. Will here. Again, decisive. Look how just fast after this little motion that he's ready to rear it up and give it out, right? Boom. Super quick, really decisive, like that, right? Sees it, trusts it, throws it, gets it. If he can do this with this level of confidence in the NFL, he can definitely play. Tom Brady had a noodle arm? I don't know about that. Tom Brady was smacking field outs at 42 years old in like the overtime of a Super Bowl. I wouldn't say he had a noodle. Did Tom Brady have like Josh Allen arm strength? No. But a noodle? Tom Brady? Nah. I think you might be wilding on that one. Like, yeah, he was never like you could make the argument that Peyton had a weaker arm than like Tom did, though. Yeah, like Drew was the arm strength guy. Drew was the dude with the cannon. Drew and Ben had the cannons in that era. But Tom and Peyton, Tom didn't have a bad arm. Like, I'm not about to do that to him. And like, really, Peyton, the only reason I think he had a bad arm is because I'm remembering old Peyton Manning. Young Peyton Manning could throw. You could really lift it. Yeah, I think we all tripping on that. Rogers had a cannon. What do you mean? He still does. Boy, we have forgotten the history of the game already. It's scary. Like, I think freaks like Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes like kind of makes people recontextualize some of the older era guys, but nah, man. Nah, those dudes still had a popping arm. DTR, dude, I'm so glad we can retire the DTR has a cannon. What are you talking about stuff? Because he had like a high miles per hour at the combine. I've watched him not be able to get air under those footballs for far too long. Contact balance. Look at that contact balance by Quincy. Shoom, cut, stay on your feet, touchdown. That's my guy. I like Quincy a lot. But we're going to talk about something else now. We're going to move on to the second part of the show. We talked about Will Howard. I like Will Howard. But Jacob, my guy, you are a fan of a different quarterback in this draft class. Not saying you're not a fan of Will Howard, but who do you like in this draft class at quarterback?
I don't know what's going on with my hair. I didn't know that this was what was going on here. No, I will say I do like Will Howard, but QB1 for me is Cam Ward, and the only one I would take it to.
Okay, that's interesting. Right now, I will readily admit I don't like jazz. Right, and sometimes watching Cam Ward to me feels like jazz. And I think about all the damn jazz we done played at quarterback over the last few years, over the last 10 years. And you tell me that this dude who be playing the jazz is the guy that you should consider it too. And I have a visceral, oh God, reaction to it, right? So what I want to do, because look, the draft isn't just about what one person thinks a team should do. It's a conversation. I think that's the funnest thing about the draft. You do the work, you have conversations with other people who do the work, and you come out to wherever you come out on prospects. And sometimes you can do the same amount of work, watch the same exact games, have two different outcomes on what you think a player could be. Doesn't mean that somebody is bad at their job or good at their job. So me and Jacob, we don't agree on Cam Ward, but what I wanted to do today was to bring Jacob on because I want to see, can Jacob sell me on Cam Ward? So that's my first thing. Let's start here with the first thing. I'm worried about the over what it feels like is an over reliance on improvisation for Cam. I look at the Browns offense, and I think the type of quarterback that thrives there is somebody who thrives in structure or is somebody who could thrive in structure. What is it about Cam Ward that makes you project that that won't be a problem for him, or that's a problem he can overcome in the league?
So the first thing that stands out to me about that was if you just specifically look at his stuff in the pocket, in the structure in 2023 at Washington State and compare it to what it was this year at Miami, leaps and bounds. Totally, obviously far from a finished product in that aspect of his game, and there's still a lot that needs to happen there, but it's night and day, which to me kind of gives you the I don't know if it's just the hope, the optimism, maybe optimism is probably the word, but I've seen a guy make strides on his weakest area in his fifth year as a college starter. So, because some people are saying, hey, are you a finished product at that point? You've made a ton of collegiate starts. He has 2 years at JUCO, 2 years at Washington State, this year at Miami. And I'm looking at him and I'm saying, hey, he worked on that. still a lot of work to do on that aspect of his game. Yes.
Yeah.
But somebody asked me that today in the forums on the OBR.com, was just kind of like, well, what about the under center? Like, what is it that gives you hope and things like that? And I've seen a guy get coached up even later in his career in the areas that were his weak points. And I've been told that when you talk about a leader, a hard worker, a guy that takes coaching, that's Cam Ward. That is the rumor about the kind of person he is. Apparently, teammates love the competitive fire. They love to gravitate around him. So it needs work, yes, but I've seen the strides lately that makes me think he can continue to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I think you bring up some interesting stuff, right? The improvement from Washington State to Miami, I think, is something that is significant and worth considering with him. I just look, the Watson thing kind of just threw cold water on a lot of like different ideas, and maybe I'm gonna have to learn to shed that over time. Because like when you bring up, hey man, he's easy to coach, I remember that was like the main thing that people were like, oh yeah, Watson's super easy to coach, right? His teammates, they just love that competitive fire that Watson has, and maybe that's just something I have to shed eventually, because it doesn't mean that he's not able to do it. But I do wonder, I'm like, how much of his play style is this is what he's comfortable doing versus this is just what he's being asked to do. Mm-hmm. Like, do you think this is what Miami is asking him to do, and that's why he's playing this kind of looser style? Because they're like, hey, it's college. This guy has pretty high arm talent. We know that we have the athletes to spread it out in the ACC. So this is what we're going to ask him to do. It's not necessarily what would best prepare him for a professional career. And that's why Cam Ward looks like this. Or do you think Cam Ward plays like this because he likes jazz? Like, this is just kind of like how he's the most comfortable playing the game of football? Because that's another concern I have, where I'm like, I have 5 years of tape to tell me this is kind of what he likes to do. Yeah. And trying to recoach somebody into doing what they don't naturally kind of default to, that's why I worry about you have that same disconnect that you had with Deshaun. Do you think that's a problem with Cam?
Yeah, I definitely see the issues there. And that's why, like, if you look, last week I wrote a full in-depth profile on the OBR, and I finished it at the end and said that I still have some hesitance at 2. Like, I still have hesitance at 2 because of things like that. One thing I come back to with some of the stuff that happened in Miami and some of the freelancing and the turnover worthy plays, because I know he only ended up with like 7 interceptions, which doesn't really fully tell the tale because the turnover worthy play percentage was higher. So he got away with some things that he will not get away with at the next level. But I also come back to he had to be Superman this year. That defense was not stopping a cold for Miami. He was going to have to put up 40 points a game. And when he didn't put up 40 points a game, they were going to lose. Like, that was just kind of where it is. And so I try to differentiate that and say, I think that's part of it. Do I think he loves to thrive outside of structure? Absolutely, because he has the ability to do that. I mean, he's not Jalen Milroe as an athlete, but he's a very good athlete. I think I've kind of compared him to kind of Jameis coming out.
He's a quick, short area guy, because like his long speed's probably gonna be like 4.7, 4.8, right? Because like when he gets out in the open field, I'm like, okay, he's not that fast, but. Yeah, he has that quick, like his 3-cone might be pretty decent, right? Like his short shuttle and his 10-yard split might be solid, because that's what Jacoby Brissett runs, like a 5 flat, but like his 10-yard is pretty good, right? You can see it when he plays. It's like, okay, he can get that short area stuff.
Yeah, and that's Cam. Cam will get you the 10 yards. He'll do the Will Howard almost. I mean, he's a little quicker than Will Howard, but you know that kind of like, he's not going to break a 70-yard run, but can Cam Ward break a 25, 30-yard touchdown run? Yeah, he can kind of do those sorts of things too. You don't want to go
Is
too
he in
far.
the category of guys who, if they run for a first down on you, you're like, dude?
No, he's not there. Like, he's not that. It's not that. That is really.
I don't mean it as like, oh my God, you just let like old Ben Roethlisberger run for a first down. But there are guys where it's like, how do we not get there? Like, how are we this locked in on man that we just like, well, who's a quarterback that makes me feel that way whenever they run for a first? Like Russell Wilson right now. If he runs for
Russell
a first
Wilson
down on
against
you, I'm
us.
like, come on. Like, it's not that he can't, like, you don't think he's athletic enough to do it. It's just like we should really be aware enough. Like, or Geno Smith, if he runs for a first on you, you're like, come on, dog. Like, what's going on? Like, who's not checking to something at the in the
Who
secondary?
didn't turn around just to make sure that Geno wasn't going to go lumbering down the field on it? Yeah, I think too with Cam, I think you put him in it's one of those things where that is a big conversation you've got to have with him at the combine, in your pre-draft visits, all of that sort of situation where you got to kind of hash that thing out with him, because I do think that he understands who he was, who he is, and like just the best parts of his game and highlighting it and making absurd throws on the run, or just because he can throw that thing a country mile. He can just chuck it down the sideline like it's nobody's business. But I think if you get him in a system and you sit him down and you ask him to play, I think he makes plenty of plays in structure. What's really funny, so I went back and I watched every snap of 2024, and I watched several games of 2023 over the past couple of weeks for him. He makes more plays, I think, in structure than some people think. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that all of the plays that you see on the highlight reels are the ones that he doesn't make in structure. Those are the ones that really do wow you. But when he's given a clean pocket and open wide receivers, which is what Kevin Stefanski can give him, if they rebuild that offensive line, I think he can operate in that system. And I just, when I see a guy who I think comes into the NFL, I'm not sure if I'm not talking about quarterback. I'm not going to like make this crazy overarching statement, but if I'm talking about pure arm talent, I don't know that there's 10 guys in the NFL that have more than he does. I think just pure can sling the ball, not necessarily play the position. There's a lot more that goes into it than the pure arm talent. But if you're watching these guys in the playoffs and you're like, I got to get a dude that can really sling the ball, I think Cam's up there. And as a result, I'm willing to take that kind of chance on it.
It's tricky because I don't think he can hit the same kind of top speed like Baker used to be able to hit, where if Baker double cheeks it, he can probably throw 60, 70. Like, I don't know if he has enough back. Like, I'm interested to see what he measures in like weighs at, because I don't know if he's sitting on 220 like they say he is at Miami. Yeah, but the thing with him I think will be interesting. That's interesting is he can whip it from different arm angles. I think that's the unique thing about him, is that he has a consistent level to drive the ball from a wide range of arm angles, which I think makes why I think he got those crazy Pat Mahomes comps, right? Because we see somebody with crazy arm angles, we don't know what to do with it anymore because like Pat Mahomes exists. But yeah, I think that's the thing about him, is that he has these like crazy arm angles he can access, and he can flick it as far as anybody in the league, and while it being effortless. My question with him is, because like you watch him and you watch like, this is somebody who had like crazy arm strength but like wasn't good, Brandon Whedon, right? Brandon didn't have like that effortlessness about it, and I think Brandon could probably drive a ball faster than what Cam can, but Cam can flick it in there fast enough with access to different angles, which I think is important to make sure you don't get a ton of deflections. Now, the thing with Cam that I see when I'm like, okay, well, he's not playing in structure. If we break it down to what really bothers me, is sometimes I don't feel like he's decisive, right? Yeah. And I think indecision, if that's what makes quarterbacks look different in the next level, right? When you're not confident, when you have that indecision. I think if you look at Jalen Milroe's tape, right? It's split into two halves. When he was really confident in what he was doing and when he wasn't, right? When he was really confident, he looked pretty good. When he wasn't, it looked pretty bad, right? And with him measuring at 8.5-inch arms, hands, it's going to be tough for him, right? That's a horrible measurement for him, right? Yeah. So you'll see what you can see there. But with these top two quarterbacks, right? The one thing, and I'm not saying Will Howard is better than these guys, but when I watch Will Howard, and Will Howard's 5-year guy, he should be at this point. Will can make up for a lot of his flaws. Like he doesn't have a great arm because he's decisive, right? And he can throw with anticipation. When I watch Shador, I think Shador throws with decent anticipation. He's not as decisive. I think he's probably the least decisive one out of all of them, considering that he's not asked to play out of structure a ton. And then there's Cam, who I wonder, I'm like, are you just not like, I know you see it. Like some of this stuff is just basic. It's ace 91 with the ball route over. Like it's a mesh. Like you have to see it. Why haven't you made the decision yet? Like, I wonder if you could like talk to him about it and get his like unfiltered answer, what his answer would be for the number of times that we just see straight up indecision from him, and it leads to bad things or sometimes crazy good things happening, right? Because he is so good out of structure. But in the NFL, we know what indecision turns to. It's a strip sack for TJ Watt. That's Myles Garrett blowing you up, right? That's somebody coming up the middle, right? That's Cam Hayward smacking you in the face. There's not a lot of room for indecision, especially in Kevin's offense. How do you rectify that part with his fit in Cleveland? Because that's the thing that I have the hardest time with is even with Shador, where it's like, hey, I don't want to get somebody here who's going to be indecisive. Because, I mean, even with somebody like Baker Mayfield, that became a huge problem, right? The indecision where he just started patting the ball. And it's like, this offense is meant for you to get that ball out in whatever time is on that damn sheet, right? And it's usually the same amount of time that you got steps. So that's the biggest thing with Cam for me on why it's the second biggest thing. We'll talk about my next biggest thing in just a second here, but that's my second biggest thing that holds me back from thinking about turning the card in, because I think we all know the Browns want to draft. Everybody wants to get a quarterback. If we could solve that problem with 2 pick, that'd be awesome. But we gotta make sure the quarterback you want is there. And I think the decisiveness part of this, that's a huge part of it, right? For the Browns to decide, hey, is this somebody you want? Because I don't think it works well with the indecisive quarterback.
Yeah. That is the biggest hang up for me, is that you can't make you see some of the really bad decisions that come from the indecisiveness where he throws it into an area that maybe he had it open, but he waited and then went back across the field, or you know how it is. You don't throw back across the field if you wait. If you hesitate, you throw back across the field, it's going to get picked off. He can get away with that sometimes. Because he gets away with that sometimes, he thinks he can always. He has people talk about the gunslinger mentality. He's got the Jay Cutler gunslinger mentality where he's like, nah, man, I can make that. Every single throw, he's like, I can make that. And I think he is so it seems like he wants to go big play hunting all the time, to the point where he just doesn't take what the defense gets him. And I want to know if that, again, you're spot on. I want to know why. I want to have that conversation with him. And if you're not satisfied with what the answer is, then I understand saying, you know what, no, it's not going to work. I don't want an indecisive guy that's going to run around and just not, because there's times to create and there's times to take what's in front of you. Again, I think just the kind of player he is and the kind of talent and things I've heard about him, I'm encouraged about it. But if you don't feel like that's something you can coach him on, I get it. And I think if that's your biggest hang up and for you it's a deal breaker, I totally respect that, because that's a major concern.
Yeah, because it's not like that in every offense, right? Like some offenses you can live with a little bit more indecision than other offenses. But yeah, that's to me, because like you look at the quarterbacks who have had success here. I mean, Baker Mayfield was really decisive in 2020. 2021, he was indecisive, hurt him, right? Jacoby Brissett
just real decisive there. Joe Flacco, he didn't have any hesitation, right? He was just launching balls, right? Just anticipation, all of that. And then you look at what Jameis Winston had success early on. Why? Because Jameis don't need to be convinced to do anything, right? Jameis is going to do what he wants to do, and he's going to be decisive and confident in that. And that's why he was able to have a lot more success than somebody like DTR, who you could just see him. I think it's high. I don't know, but I might throw an interception. I don't know where that safety is. And he's thinking about way too much there. And it's like, hey, you gotta trust the offense to throw, right? And I wonder, because he has moved around so much, and this is a question with a lot of kids in college football now coming to the NFL. These offenses, especially like the Shanahan style stuff, it requires that you trust an offense. And I wonder how many of these kids have experience like trusting an offense, because they haven't had to be in one offense that long, right? Because coordinators are changing or they're transferring or anything like that. That to me, I think, is another question here. It's like, hey, is this guy able to trust his offense? Is he ever going to be at that point? Like, I think it was a huge issue with Deshaun. I don't think there's an offense Deshaun trusts, right? Especially once he started to not have success. So that's a concern there. But my number one thing about the number 2 overall pick, hey, we got to be real about what a number 2 overall pick at quarterback means, right? That's an investment. It's not like, oh, well, if it don't work, we can just move on, draft somebody next year. That means 2026, you're out of that class. 2027, you're out of that class. You're spending the next 3 years dedicated to developing whoever you draft at 2 this year. Mm-hmm. So you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. One, how do we feel about 2026 and 27? Mm-hmm. How do we feel about our chances to get somebody in one of those years? What do we project for ourselves this year? That's a question the Browns have to have internally. I can't tell you the answer to that, right? Browns might be like, hey, we're trying to win 11 games. We got to do it right now. The Browns might be like, hey, we don't know what's going to happen next year. We don't have a quarterback. So we got to consider the 2026-27 draft. Number 2, you're in the AFC. You're in a division that has Lamar and Joe Burrow. And the dude with 3 MVPs, people argue, is not the best quarterback in that division, right? Like, you're in a conference where you have to get past Patrick Mahomes. The requirements at quarterback in the AFC are just higher than what they are in the NFC. So if you draft somebody at 2, with all of that considered, I have to have the belief, and you tell me how you feel about this, but to me, I'm not taking a quarterback at 2 if I'm not convinced that they could be as good as CJ Stroud or any other quarterback that you would say, hey, that guy gives me a chance against Patrick Mahomes. If we're talking about like, hey, he could be as good as Dak, he could be as good as Tua, these quarterbacks are like, I don't know if they give you a fighting chance against him. You got to ask for a lot of things to go right. Then that concerns me, you know? So when you look at the top of this class, Cam Ward is the top guy in your mind. Do you think he has the upside and do you think the probability of him getting to that upside is high enough to where if you turn that card in, I'm not asking that you feel amazing about it, right? Like, because that's last year, right? Jaden Daniels, Drake May, whatever you did at 2, you would have felt amazing about, right? Because those are just different level of prospects. But would you feel good about it? Would you feel confident about it? If you turn that card in thinking that, hey, this guy's going to give me a chance in the AFC if we just put him in our system?
I think I do. And I think the biggest reason for that is I think I have seen, for the most part, this offensive coaching staff, specifically Kevin Stefanski, get a lot out of quarterbacks who, aside from Baker Mayfield, who had the physical talent, I've seen him do it with other guys that didn't have that raw physical talent. And then he was able to get stuff out of Jacoby Brissett, for example, and some things like that. I do, because I'm just trying to figure out what is the best way to get me one of those guys I saw the last couple of weekends.
Can I interject here?
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen him get success with like Joe Flacco, with Jacoby Brissett, to an extent, Jameis Winston. Mm-hmm. I do have the larger question of like, hey, if you point to guys who are closer to Cam Ward's style, though we have not seen Kevin have that success in improving those guys' level of play. Do you factor that in when you think about that? Because like that's one thing that like I don't know if he qualifies for the Kevin Stefanski 15% boost that we usually see with some of these quarterbacks, because you know, as much as he's done to get more out of like Deshaun and Joe Flacco and some of these other guys, I've also seen it where I'm like, I'm not convinced that Deshaun didn't look worse because he's here, right? Not saying he would have been amazing anywhere else, but I think the fit in the match of skill set and tendencies between the quarterback and the coach were just a uniquely bad one that it probably made him worse, especially those first 2 years, than it did anything to make him better. Do you think Cam falls into that category where you have to start considering how things went with Deshaun?
Yeah, and I think that is the question Kevin Stefanski has to answer. And that's why it's like, if you are doing the right thing, and I think the right thing is letting Kevin pick the quarterback in 2025, whichever route that is, whether it's a guy like Kirk Cousins or it's a guy like Cam Ward. I look at Cam Ward and I think what they can do is have Cam Ward be an athletic version of what Joe Flacco was in 2023. I think that style of offense, what they were doing there, I think Cam Ward's skill set can really be there. Think about some of the we laughed at it at the time, but some of those plays where Joe Flacco was getting out there and running a little bit and throwing the ball on the run and everything, put a better athlete there. I mean, because if some things that really, really got me even more on the Cam Ward train over the last couple of weeks while I was watching it is you remember some of those throws, like the one against the Bears that we talk about a million times, when you see the all 22 version from behind Flacco in the end zone where he threads it in there to Amari to win that game. I've watched multiple times Cam Ward do those sorts of throws, be in that kind of, don't you start with me, MC. I see you in the comments. MC knows how to fire me up, and I see him over there in the comments trying to fire me up. But I that's what I envision when I envision Cam with Kevin, is that style of offense, but a more athletic thrower. And I think maybe Flacco probably had not at this point. Maybe at one point Flacco probably could throw it a little bit deeper, maybe a little bit. But I think, you saw some of this stuff with Flacco. You talked about it with Cam, the arm angles, dropping it down, throwing it around to Jerome Ford. I can think of a couple of plays where he did that when he dropped it. I think that is the kind of best case scenario that I envision that makes me feel really good is, hey, a guy that can do what they did in that stretch all the time, but is a better athlete. Now, if Kevin doesn't think they can do that and that it'll work, then don't do it. if Kevin's like, no, actually it won't work because yada, 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 I want Will Howard, I probably wouldn't cry if he did that. I'm not going to be, but my thing is like, I think the best chance you have at getting one of those guys I've seen these last couple of weekends with that special kind of ability to throw the ball that way, I think it's Cam. And for that reason, that's why I'm fully board on that train, but I'm not 110% on the train like I wish I was, and like I would have been in last year's draft if we were picking second.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels. I remember watching him one time at LSU, and I was like, that's Kevin Stefanski's dream at quarterback, right? Like, because Kevin wants an athlete at the position. I think he's made that clear. Every quarterback that they have pursued or tried to develop, like they had Kellen Mond on the squad for a couple of years trying to develop him. Like, I think he wants an athlete at the position. We heard Joe Milton's name last year as one that the Browns are interested in. Mm-hmm. So I think they're interested in an athlete at the position, somebody who can put the linebackers in conflict by just existing, right? I think he sees that happen with Lamar Jackson and says to himself, hey, that'd be great if we could do that. Mm-hmm. I think he wants, that's why he's going back to college and getting all these guys and making sure that he's pulling from there. I wouldn't be surprised if you draft Cam Ward, because I'm like, if the one thing I know Cam Ward can do, low ceiling, high floor, is he could do the RPO stuff because he's decisive and he can throw it and he's whip strong with the arm. He could do that stuff. He'll be fine. My overall questions with him have to do with just the fit. Like I see your vision, and I think it's a beautiful vision, Jacob. But I don't know if Cam is the guy to live through that vision, right? Like I have my concerns about his decisiveness. Size is going to be a big thing too, right? In the AFC North, is he sitting on two bills? Is he not? Like, how big is he actually? Does height start to become a concern? I mean, like nobody thought Jalen Milroe's hands were a problem until like a week ago, right? Like that was a complete shock for everybody. But then you look back and you're like, that's why the ball looks flat out his hand sometimes, right? Like it's like, okay, kind of he has these errant passes, and you're like, oh.
You're like, oh no, that tracks.
Yeah, it starts to track back, and then you start to be like, okay, now it's a real problem because I've seen football evidence that hand tie stuff actually matters for him. So it's gonna be an interesting draft season. But the one thing I said in one of my videos, because like the Browns interviewed Shador, I'm like, they should do everything they can to be as sure as possible a quarterback. Because the thing is, you're gonna hear stories that, hey, the Browns want to draft the quarterback at 2. That's true. They do want to draft the quarterback at 2. I want the Browns to draft the quarterback at 2. But if it's not the right guy, you can't just draft one to draft one.
No.
And I think that is the question that the Browns have to grapple with. Even if they start feeling good, do I just want to feel good about it, right? Like, am I trying to convince myself that this is the right choice, or am I convinced that this is the choice? Gonna be a lot to think about, Jacob. Thank you for joining me for the second half of QC Live. Thank everybody else for sitting through some technical difficulties with me. I want to make sure everybody has a great day, has an even better night. Peace.